The man coming toward you is falling forward on all fronts. He has just come in from the summer hot box of circumstance. His obedient arm pulls a ticket from the ticket machine. A bell announces to the long tables his presence on the scene. The room is crowded with Last Suppers, and the air is angry. The hallelujahs lift listless heads. The man is hungry. He looks at the people, the rings of lights, the aisles, the chairs. They mass and attack his eyes, and they take him unawares. But in a moment it is over, and the immense hippopotamus cries and swims away in safety in the vast past of his eyes. The weeks recoil before the days, the years before the months. The man is hungry and keeps moving forward on all fronts. His hair is loosening. His teeth are at bay. He breathes fear. His nails send futile tendrils into the belly of the atmosphere. Every drop of his blood is hanging loose in the universe. His children's faces everywhere bring down the college doors. He is growing old on all fronts. His foes and his friends are bleeding behind invisible walls, bedecked with dividends. His wife is aging, and his skin puts on its anonymous gloves. The man is helpless, surrounded by 2 billion hates and loves. Look at him squirm inside his clothes, the harpies around his ears. In just 1 minute, his brothers will have aged 4,000 years. Who records his stupendous step on the delicate eardrum of chance? The man coming toward you is marching forward on all fronts. Tent. Let us get up, who drowse in the armchair of adage, who are outstared by the eye of evening in the room. The mask of heresy falls from the sanguine savage. Outside flowers the populous body of the gloom. The pores are crowding us out in our intimate tent. The tri-humped fable, camel of horror, wants to get in. The cold nose of the night steadily widens the rent and pulls from our shoulders the ingrown annals of sin. Better to unloose a flock of screams into the rain, swing open the door hung by the nerves over deeps of evil. In the surcharged light, there gleams the knob of the brain on which lies hallucination, fingerprint of the devil. Better to walk out with naked feet among the floored events, where unicorns stand toy deep among crystal alps of jargon, and the rubber clouds leave in hordes the breathing vents, jolted open by death rattles of the conjuring jaguar. In the sandstorm of civilization's letters of the print, even death is no shield. The tongue gets coated and wicked. The lungs corrode, and the springs are matted with lint, and the girders crowd around the latest among the naked. Obituary notices adorn the sedateness of daily features. Somebody is committing the daily commonplace of dying. Somebody barters a piecemeal past for a mess of futures. Somebody is caught telling the truth. The headlines flying. The oddest people die in the corners of our consciousness. Lights with half names go out, as in a harbor at night, and death becomes a magnificent soliloquy in full dress, while we eavesdrop from the bottom of a shaft of light. And from the bottom where we cower, we hear the shoddy argument that reality gives to the anguish of the angel. We are thrown like a hand grenade from the wrist of body among the boy demons romping in the celluloid manger. Those who die, die in a hurry, hand quicker than eye. The details are pitiless that tell how the trick is done. Meanwhile, we button the day against the threatening sky, vast gold paw limping through mind, dread, tread of sun. Caught with the nerve of the sweet tooth exposed to viewpoints, caught without clothing before the lustful emanation of ice, we rip the weather strips of the last hour from the loins. Our tent, a sheet of newspaper, gesticulating flag of truce. The leg in the subway. When I saw the woman's leg on the floor of the subway train protrude beyond the panel, while her body overflowed my mind's eye, when I saw the pink stocking, black shoe, curve bulging with warmth, the delicate etching of the hair behind the flesh-colored gauze, when I saw the ankle of Mrs. Nobody going nowhere for a token, when I saw this foot motionless on the moving, motionless floor, my mind caught on a nail of a distant star. I was wrenched out of the reality of the subway ride. I hung in a socket of distance, and this is what I saw. The long tongue of the speed of the earth was licking the leg. Upward and under and around went the long tongue of speed. It was made of a flesh invisible. It dripped the saliva of miles. It drank moment, lit shivers of insecurity in the niches between bones. It was full of eyes. It stopped licking to look at the passengers. It was as alive as a worm and busier than anybody in the train. It spoke, saying, "To whom does this leg belong? Is it a bonus leg for the rush hour? Is it a forgotten leg? Among the many myriads of legs, did an extra leg fall in from the out there? O woman, sliced off bodily by the line of the panel, shall I roll your leg into the abdominal nothing among digestive teeth? Or shall I fit it in with the pillars that hold up the headlines?" But nobody spoke, though all the faces were talking silently, as the train zoomed, a zipper closing up swiftly the seam of time. Alas, said the long tongue of the speed of the earth quite faintly, what is one to do with an incorrigible leg that will not melt? But everybody stopped to listen to the train vomiting cauldrons of silence, while somebody's jolted out afterthought trickled down the blazing shirt front solid with light bulbs, and just then the planetary approach of the next station exploded atoms of light. And when the train stopped, the leg had grown a surprising mate, and the long tongue had slipped hurriedly out through a window. I perceived through the hole left by the nail of the star in my mind how civilization was as dark as our wood and dimensional with things. and how birds, dipped in chromium, sang in the crevices of our deeds. The man in that airplane. The man in that airplane once lay in the womb. He flies like a lark in a place full of room, in the clouds, to get a good look at his tomb. The man in that airplane once clung to the dark, his shadows strewn over meadow and park. Where God airs the light, the man seeks his mark. The man in that airplane once curled in his mother, where he couldn't move to get at his brother. Now he flies straight in the face of his father. Shopping for meat in winter. What lewd, naked, and revolting shape is this? A frozen oxtail in the butcher's shop. Long and lifeless upon the huge block of wood, on which the ogre's axe begins, chop, chop. The sun, like incense, fumes on the smoky glass. The street frets with people. The winter wind throws knives. Prices dangle from shoppers' mouths, while the grim vegetables on parade bring to mind the great countryside bathed in golden sleep. The trees, the bees, the soft peace everywhere. I think of the cow's tail, how all summer long it beat the shapes of harps into the air. By Fiat of Adoration. This is what we really want, who drink the kingdom of the heart, a toast to the imagination. She is flowering in a doorway, eyes, cheeks, haze of hair, stepping out of time into here. This is what we really have, who see the one we adore, becoming the two that she is in the light. Ah, God bounces all the waters from hand to jubilant hand. He cannot contain himself, but comes over into being with benediction of painted cloud. The being whom to look at is to become. By Fiat of Adoration do we reach the very muscle of miracle, the ease with which beauty is beauty. The Mirage. I lived a life without love, and saw the being I loved on every branch. Then that bare tree stood up with all its branches up, a great harp growing straight out of the ground. And there I saw a squadron of bright birds clothing the bare limbs. The music notes sat on the harp. It was all love. This was the heart inside the starved body. Love grew images like cactus and planted roses on the walls of the mirage. And the garden grew shining with perfume, and the senses dwindled to dew. The century was rolled into one formation aloft, a cloud, like Saint Veronica's handkerchief of love. There I saw the face of the one without whom I lived. Two soft jewels implanted in her face. Her hair growing around her face without sound. and her love for me sprang on her skin like dew. Pearl gray as the flower of the brain she lay, quivering in the soft cushion of the great day. I heard a roar of buildings at my conscience. I looked up and saw a wall of windows glowing, and there my love leaned out of each window. There she leaned out, multiplied like heaven in that vast wall of lights. Every light her face, suns of 1,000 mornings, ranging on one day. And all the machines were running, and yes, great was the sound of their running downward and down into the blind chutes of their rooted feet. And all the windows quivered with my many loves. Like apples they fell off at one windfall. All. And I awoke on the starved pavements of no love.
Judas. When first he saw the savage lilies in the meadow, they broke a great sheet of silver on his forehead. Their purity crackled, and his heart grew frightened. His inner eye trembled by his outer heightened. Never knowing whether to be cringing or demanding, he became the high priest of all misunderstanding. He made his senses his law and knew no other, and always there was the shadow of his brother cleaving the rich sunlight into toppling flowers. The domain of his brow darkened and his soul soured. Enemies kept growing on trees, crowding the branches, a cloud of arms reaching for his morning's chances. The field of lilies glittered in the light of honor, cool among the mountains, but steadily came rumors. He continued hearing calumnies against his having, tall talk of all kinds of giving and of loving. In time, he trafficked between Susanna and the elders, and became the outsider with the uneven shoulders. Born with the forever on the night of the supper, a wall of angels sang he was to live and suffer. And now his church has grown gigantic under the bushel, sending beacons of blasphemy on the individual. Oh, but he bore witness that every man of ill will is crazed by a glimpse of the sea of silver lilies.
The Last Supper. Apostles of the hidden sun are come unto the room of breath, hung with the banging blinds of death, the body 12, the spirit 1. Far is the eye in earth arrayed, the night shining, the supper laid. The wine shone on the table that evening of history, like an enormous ruby in the bauble and mystery. In the glowing walls of the flickering decanter, there moved his face as at the world's center. The hands of Judas showed up red and hurried, and the light hit them so, like a cross carried. The faces of the others were there and moving in the crystal of the dome, swiftly hovering. The saints, under a lens shrunken to pygmies, gesticulated in birds or in colored enigmas. Outside there was a storm, the sound of tumblers. The blood bubbled and sprang into the tumblers. When the morning came, like a white wall of stone, the day lay in the glass, and the blood was gone. Apostles of the hidden sun are come unto the room of breath, hung with the banging blinds of death. The body 12, the Spirit One, far as the eye in earth arrayed, the night shining, the supper laid.
The borrower of salt. The man who saw the light hanging on the tall end of the road thought it was a lantern on the distant wall of the mysterious neighbor. So he said, "Friend, friend, I am coming out to borrow some of the savor of your salt." Wherewith he started running toward the light that hung in the neighbor's window. And as he kept going, the light danced, saying with a mocking step, "Isn't it wrong that I dance in my glory while you walk in the night?" "Yes," said the man, "it is wrong. And what is worse, the wind is getting bad, the mud thicker, the road harder to follow, and I move as slowly as a hearse. In fact, I feel as if my body were turning into the load." The gleam tittered like a light on the end of a spar, but the man was up to his knees in road, as if roots sprouted from his feet. "Alas," said the man, "it is too hard. Those who would walk in great men's tracks must wear boots." He turned around, and the wind opened spigots of swift air on his head. Up his thighs he felt the earth's lips creep, and lo, the light gleamed spiritedly from his own fair housetop. But he couldn't move. The track was so deep.